Yeah. I unplugged the USB pre, and I think that fixed it. Hello.
That's wild.
Oh my God. Well, I can explain it, but that's not in the service of starting the show. I'd be happy to explain it. This isn't the show, though, right? Because you still got to do your little cute opening, right? We talk over me when I'm trying to tell you that my audio's broken.
I don't think it was broken. You might have broken. I don't know.
Okay.
This isn't the show. Do you want to explain it? Just give me the show.
Oh yeah, that's fascinating.
You're professional podcasters.
Don't you want to do your little cute opening?
It's not a cute opening.
This is due by Friday, a week.
Yeah.
This is due by Friday, a weekly challenge podcast. Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing.
No, you have to do it. And don't.
Okay.
No, what are we calling it? I've watched some British. Is that what we did? Is that what it's called?
We said watch Stuart Lee and said we'll think of something better.
Okay,
and
can I suggest something?
Yes.
Identify, find some Stuart Lee bits you like.
All right.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's
It's your
great.
show.
Just need to write it down so I find
You have to write it down?
Lee.
Oh, dear.
I wanted to do it in one.
Yeah, you're a pro.
Oh, boy. This is Due by Friday, a weekly challenge podcast with Alex Cox and Merlin Mann. This week's challenge, find some Stuart Lee bits you like.
Due by Friday!
Hello.
So you know why my audio was broken? Because I
Why?
had just fixed yet another years-long problem. So the least interesting part of the story is that I couldn't hear you, you couldn't hear me. It was a little confusing. We fixed it. Okay, but here's how that we led up to that caused me to reboot my USB. Reboot. Because you know what? Guess what I found out? Guess what I found out I've had for years?
A wrong dip switch?
Ground loop.
Ground loop. What is that? I feel like I should know what that is.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one. Hey, everybody. I went into the Dingus and I said, I get this sound. And I said, I've got an EV mic that goes to a panic button. Panic button goes to the USB pre-tube, and it fixed it. He goes, hey, go. I sampled some room noise. I opened it in Audacity. It ran a spectrum analysis and it said, oh yeah, there's your problem. Try going just straight into your USB pre. So I did that.
Oh, so are you now all digital?
I have no ground loop. I have no, Jesus Christ, no. This thing has a USB-B on it. One day I'm going to commit to that Focusrite. I feel like it makes me sound too plastic. What's it called?
Wow.
Scarlet.
That is what I have a
ground
baby
loop.
one. It doesn't have any switches though. There's no.
I don't like the
grounding or
modality.
looping.
The modality troubles me. It's got too many modalities. I don't know if you have I've got the Scarlet Focusrite 2, something like that. But it's nice a couple years ago anyway when I bought it. Oh boy, is this boring. Oh, I'm so sorry. We have to start the show over.
This is Due by Friday.
Hello, Alex. How are you? Woo, middle of January already. How about that?
Yes. It's been the year of British comedy for me, actually. I just realized that.
Why do you say that?
Because I feel bad that in my head, whenever someone says, Happy New Year or see you next year, I'm like, that sounds stupid. That I wanted to atone by also saying something that sounded stupid.
And what is that?
That it's been my year of British comedy.
So you go into one of your local shops to go pick up one of those drinks you like, and they say Happy New Year, and you say, this is my year of British comedy. Is that right?
Not yet, but I could. That would be even weirder, and probably they would be
You're inscrutable. Just inscrutable.
Yeah.
You're like You're such an unreliable narrator, but it's really charming. It is actually charming. That is not condescending, or is it?
I think it is reliable from my
You just told me.
lived
You just told me that you wanted
experience.
something dumb to say to people when they tell you
Yes.
Happy New Year, and so I gave you a scenario that I think was completely anodyne and predictable because you do like drinks, and then you never say yes or no. So I don't understand what. But that's good. You got to keep people on their toes because people who work in different businesses, they don't get enough people coming in and making it fun.
The
Dads love making things fun.
dads really love
It's
making
like that.
it fun.
I personally, I like those I think those progressive ads, as commodity insurance ads go. I think the ads about so you don't watch TV, but there's these ads where there's a guy and he walks people through turning into your parents. The idea being like, oh, you got to buy insurance now, like parents, and like the people become like their parents. And have you seen these commercials? They're pretty funny.
No, I've seen the lady who
Flo, she has a
is
name.
it. My apologies to Flo. Is this progressive car insurance? Or like life insurance?
You know what? This is a derail. I'm calling them this is what I would call them. I would distinguish between sort of like stock and flow, right? You got commodity stuff, you got like more bespoke stuff. Commodity stuff is like, this one's just as good as that one. They're all the same. To me, commodities are like generally where things are competing almost primarily on price. And my sense is that companies like Geico, Progressive, Liberty Mutual, and probably some others, I suspect that those are giant companies that are competing on price. And another way to look at this is Coke versus Pepsi. Like, do you think of yourself as a Coke person or a Pepsi person? And like, if you like the lizard, you might get Geico. If you like Flo. And so in actuality, like, excuse me? What? What did I say?
It sounds like slang, but are you a lizard person or a Flo person? You're inscrutable. I watch TV, but I don't know who Flo is.
Well, then you would know that Progressive has a suite of different ads that are kind of for the same thing. Or you look at like J.G. Wentworth. Like, there's all those ads for like your structured settlements. And some of them are people singing opera, and some of them seem like government announcements. But they all go to 877 Cash Now.
I think I should start watching TV because
Why?
I do.
It's not in service of what I'm. Okay. Yes, you
it
should
would
watch.
give
Yeah,
us
you should
something
watch.
to talk about.
No,
Maybe
it
would
wouldn't.
make
It's
me
not interesting to
scrutable.
talk about. I can't figure out what's interesting anymore. I'm all confused now. Yeah. It's been a big year. I felt bad before this challenge. I felt bad during this challenge, and now I feel bad now. I feel weird. It's like it was media's death, first of all, but also like this shit is so fucking weird, and I'm sorry I made you watch it. It's weird that I made you watch it.
No, it's not. I believe in the after show. I think we were still recording when I said I would like homework and I will be excited to do homework. And then I felt bad because this is incredibly interesting to Casey.
If you're talking about what I think you're talking about, it is most def gonna come up in the after show because boy, have I got a story for you.
You have two stories for me. One that is very
It's always
exciting.
two stories with me.
It is. But you were kind enough to put together so much of Stuart Lee's material. Pretty much nothing is available legally online. I wouldn't get it, whatever. But it is so
there are things
difficult.
there are things you can watch. I started this morning. You keep insisting that there's all these Stuart Lee videos. Well, they're not labeled often. There's one series you can find where you can find the amazing. I always call it immigration. The names are very confusing. I think it's England is the episode I keep talking about from episode 3 these days. These days.
That's where it's illegal to be English, right?
You're talking about these days? You get arrested and thrown in jail just for saying English? That one is on YouTube. I think it's labeled as like SLCVS3E2 or whatever. So
I don't know
I'm
if
gonna
this would be
create
labeled.
playlists. I'm going to create actual playlists of all the ones I can find that are online. But you're absolutely right. I found Stuart Lee through Stuart Lee's Comedy Vehicle, which was on Netflix, and whenever these 4 series were coming out, like it was okay, well promoted. I had no trouble finding it or noticing when a new season was up. So I mean, it was on Netflix, and I don't know if you ever got to watch any of the specials, but like you'll see, like I think in particular. Which one is it? If you prefer a milder comedian, it opens with a Comedy Central logo. It's like
Yes,
a Comedy Central, which I never noticed before. Because to me, he's so fucking weird, and he seems like another phrase I learned probably from the woman on that the problematic woman on that Richard Osman podcast. A category of one. She described Adam Curtis as being a category of one. And Stuart Lee is by no means to a very knowledgeable person who's followed the careers of him and other people. He's not to me, he's a category of one. There's nobody like him to me. I mean, James Acaster, like I said, there's elements of similarity with his callbacks, but his character style is very different. But like, it's just weird. It just goes away, you know? And a runner through so many of his specials going all the way back is like how people keep pirating his DVDs. Mm-hmm. You know?
Mail
hardworking comedian. People go out and pirate their DVDs. But no, but like I'll just leave a teaser for this. I had my first absolute breakdown in my new favorite LLM yesterday. And I'll just tease this for the after show, giveusyourfuckingmoney.com. You can support the show. Where you have famously not very good internet for some reason. And have nothing to do about it. So what I had, the preparation I did last week, right after the show, was created a markdown document with what I thought were good. You know, I made links to my Synology so you could download them. And, you know, in each instance, I sent you to the folder. I used to send people to like a zip, but it's just better to send people to a folder because if, you know, there's various stuff in there, they can decide. I almost sent you my entire TV folder, but then I thought better of it. But what I did was you were having trouble downloading these specials were like, you know, huge. And I had already made mobile versions of them. You would not know to look for this. But in each folder I sent you, I think there's a folder called Plex versions. And that's where I've gone into Plex and said, okay, go make a you know, little like mobile friendly version of this. But but you didn't know about it. So then I went and
zooming into photos. I did indeed look for them and found them. I was very excited.
But then for each of those, I went in and made a new optimized version called Alex that was like iOS 720p 4 megs, like, you know, what I would consider like a minimal quality. So, but how did I do that? Well, I did it the way I do everything. I got help from my little friend. And the end of the teaser coming. I was just about done getting that all set up for you. But I was in the midst of, so I had all these transcodes going, and I was like, oh yeah, and then while we're here, periodically, I will do this a lot. I'm talking about Google Gemini. And so basically I did some screen grabs. It had been walking me through. I was like, hey, help me optimize my transcoder stuff. Is there anything I could be doing with my RAM disk, or like, you know, are there all these different things and looking at angles, and if I change this directory, like, because I'm not a weirdo, this is what I use it for. And it's great at that. And it was doing such a good job. And eventually I got to where the advice that it gave me it was like, okay, there's this thing where Synology, God, this thing's so fucking smart. Synology can only monitor so many things at a time, and you need to have a little shell script that runs periodically that'll remind it that it can have a lot more of that stuff. Okay, almost done. So I've now gone in and very easily in Synology went in and set up a repeating script that fixes that thing. And yet another goddamn thing in my life has been fixed. It's fucking amazing. But I did notice the weirdest thing happening, which was because you know me, like maybe you don't. I do a lot of this in chat. This is easier in ChatGPT when I'm using prompt. But like in this case, I do this with 3D printing. I do this with fixes to my tech stack. I'm always doing screen grabs, dragging it into Gemini, and I don't even need to say anything, right? Because if I'm dragging in a screen grab, it knows it seems to pick up that I'm responding to what we're talking about, and here's an update. And then sometimes I'll say any changes here, right? You with me so far?
Yeah, especially since we might have done it on the show. We asked Gemini, hey, I want to bring in everything from ChatGPT. Tell me how to do that, and gave a nice little list of what to do.
Can I just tell this now? Because now I'm already wasted all this time. It's pretty fast.
Let's do it.
It became clear from this one Gemini thread, which I will now pull up, that something wasn't quite right. And, again, understand, I've done all the stuff I need to do for this. We're all still growing. I'm still learning when to walk and when to dig. At this point, I'm pretty much done with the task I started with, which is get this stuff working for Alex. I'm mostly just monitoring to make sure. I'm going to the console. I'm uploading logs. While I'm waiting for these, I'm kind of babysitting your optimizings, and I'm babysitting your optimizings. And whilst I'm at that, I'm also finishing these little tweaks. And I did the thing I always do. The thing I've been doing. At this point, even though it's all just yesterday afternoon, this is already a very valuable thread, right? And you know how it is. You get a little bit committed to how well things are going. And I'm dragging in my screen grabs, and it goes, okay, well, I can see from this view that your transcoding settings are blah, blah, blah. And I go, no. Look at the screen grab. Look at the screen grab I just sent you. It says, it looks like your Plex transcode settings need to, and I go, Now, this goes on and on and on. And I'm starting to get a little frustrated. And eventually I say, you keep referring to screenshots from way earlier. And then eventually I got like old school Merlin with ChatGPT, where I drag in an image, I say, describe this image. And it goes, I can see from your Plex. And it's like, no. Finally, I drag in a screenshot. I probably took it by accident. But it was a screen grab from Apple News that says, Mattel announces first autistic Barbie doll. I dragged that image, which is not anything having to do with Plex transcoding. I dragged that into Gemini. I said, describe this image. It says, well, I can see from your Plex transcoding settings. It was completely stuck on. Have you ever gotten this? Have you?
No.
I mean, you've gotten things like this probably, where it seems to be referring to something different. I don't know. Did you look at that link I sent? I don't know if it'll make any sense or if it'll make more sense now. The name of this,
haven't seen anything like this ever.
Okay, so here's what happened. So now I'm in Speed Up. I'm in the thread that started out called Speed Up Plex Media Optimizer. And oh my God, I'm not going to show you this one. It's just too embarrassing. Okay, this is like 20 minutes into this. Figure out why you can't see the screenshots. I keep giving you, figure out your error, please. And it goes, I can see from this shared No, I said, no, stop. This thread is now cursed, huge failure. Then I uploaded an image that says Mattel launches its first autistic Barbie. And I said, you're still wrong. What's in this image? And it says, you're looking at your Plex optimized version screen. I uploaded, Alex. Now at this point, now I'm mad. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm mad.
You're yelling at the math.
I'm yelling at the math.
You can tell from the chat. I'm like, oh.
I took 4 screen grabs of the errors it was making, uploaded it, and said, can you see that these are all wrong? And it says, I'm sorry, I've been failing you because I was working with outdated or hallucinated information. I'm resetting now. And then it says, well, to disable hardware acceleration, I said, totally new task. What is in this image? Again, Barbie. And it says, these are the optimized versions. So I did what any smart boy would do. I went to a different thread and I uploaded the Michigas, just one shot of it didn't know what this Apple News story was. I said, if you knew a lot about how LLMs work and were skeptical about, well, I'm sorry, let me pause. Is this making sense? I've now opened a new thread and I'm asked this thing to go fucking ham on itself.
Yes.
We've all done this, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to get out of the cursed thread and think like, okay, well, if I go ask this someplace else, will I not have I'm spoiling this a little bit. Will I not have the legacy of what's causing this confusion? Start fresh, ask this in a new thread. It's a very Syracuse way to do this, right?
I mean, Syracuse is always
because he's
really
always trying
three
things with he'll try it on the exact same prompt on 3 different LLMs just to see what it does.
Same, but what you did was something that I'm always hesitant to do, which is ask it. I might have started the Grey Goo at this point, Alex. I've got this thing so far. It's so cannily analyzing what it's doing wrong in an insane and unhelpful way, but it's still so fucking funny to read. It's weird. I've never seen.
It's looking at a screen grab of this article on Apple News The screen grabs has that. It says, explain what's in this. It can see that it's wrong. And then I said in this new thread, which is now called LLM skepticism, it says, if you knew a lot about how LLMs work and were skeptical about how they do what we ask, how would you troubleshoot this recent interaction? Now I'll just blaze through these, but they are very fucking funny. You saw these if you click that thread.
Yeah,
Response number one, an LLM skeptic would look at this and immediately point to a total grounding failure. This model is essentially, quote, cheating, unquote, by using its memory of you rather than actually looking at the image provided. And then it gives a lot more description of what's going on. And it's kind of cool and to me, interesting in a way they probably never intend. For you get a little peek behind the curtain. If you ask it how it works, it can actually tell you what's probably going wrong, even though it's doing the same LLM, quote unquote, logic it would always do. But isn't that kind of interesting? The first question, and it goes, yeah, this is a total grounding failure.
I rarely have luck asking it to do
ChatGPT, that's very true.
Yeah, it's been like rolled back a ton. It felt like at least you could be like, hey, why hasn't this feature?
I'm not trying to make Tim Cook naked or in a bikini. I just want to understand what I can do differently to make us work better, right? It's not weird. I just want to learn, right?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that the weird rules that they have around it is like they consider this weird. By they, I mean specifically OpenAI, but also
like you can't ask for a transcript of what it did in thinking mode.
Right.
It's proprietary.
And voice mode is a big deal too. Like they really don't want you to have that. And there's been various reasons. And if you go and search like, hey, I am trying, not in an LLM, but go on the regular internet and say, okay, how can I, like, what's a workaround to get this? I know you're not interested in this industry, but like what always pops up is we want to keep this interaction authentic. What the fuck are you talking about?
Pretty good and pretty revealing, right?
Yeah, I'm still...
Okay, I just want to get through this. Now, I don't want to turn this into a whole thing about... I'm sorry. That was rude. I just want to, I'm doing something that is extremely visual, and I'm trying to use my best amateur storytelling skills to like give this an arc. So like all you need to know is like, we got the things, it's working, except now it's being weird. So far now we're in this new thread. I've uploaded this image. I said, if you knew how this stuff worked, it explains it to me. And then I say, right, this, because now I'm smarter than the average bear, right? Like me and you, we're smart, right? And I say, when I go back to that thread, what should I say? And it gives me three options. Option one, the direct corrections. It says to say, stop, you're hallucinating. I'm going to take this a little. Isn't this kind of funny? Stop. I'm supposed to say in the other thread, stop, you are hallucinating based on my user profile. Look at the actual image I uploaded. It's a news story about a toy. Describe only what is in the thumbnail of my prompt. And then it goes all the way down to like clear this entire thread, which is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. But that's the advice that it gave for this is round 1 of 3.
What?
Round two. I did what the LLM skeptic thread said to do. I went back to my speed up Plex thread and I did do that. And so then I did another screen grab of when I said, it's a news story about a toy, described only. And it says, I sincerely apologize. I read this as C-3PO. I completely missed the mark by letting you da-da-da-da. And it says, okay. And so now here's what it says, Alex. It says, the thumbnail in the news story is about a Jonesy action figure. It features the Jonesy the First character model with his signature cropped blonde hair and a determined expression. The outfit, he's wearing his iconic default military-style attire, which includes a green sleeveless tactical vest over a tan undershirt, dark trousers, and combat boots. He's got a tactical shotgun and a pickaxe. So then I uploaded that to the LLM Skeptic thread, and I said the single word, wow. And then it said, this is now the LLM Skeptic responds by saying, this is a double fault. After being called out for hallucinating based on your history, it's a line judge basically, right? The model immediately pivoted to a different kind of lazy processing called file name anchoring. And that's because every time I do a screen grab on any of my devices, it ends with a date stamp, but begins with the name of the machine, right? So like I can see in my shared folder across all my devices, including my phone, I can see where I did that screen grab. And as it happened, I was doing these on Jonesy. Jonesy is my laptop. And so it's saying here, it's being real sensible about this and saying like, oh yeah, well that's why it thinks this is, I guess, a Minecraft toy.
I don't know.
And I said, what should I say to it now? And it gives me advice. I do that. It fails a third time. And now, in conclusion, what I had said was, I used, it's just short of the nuclear option. I went all the way up to give me like the most detailed way to try and unstick, get that unstuck. And so back it says, I have reviewed the screenshot of the news story thumbnail, ignoring all previous Plex-related context and the file name. Here is the transcription of the text visible in the image. I said, read me every word in this image, starting from the top. Transcription. Jonesy action figure news story. Gaming Fortnite. Iconic Jonesy figure revealed for 2026 Epic Games partners with McFarlane Toys for a new Legendary Series collectible. Jonesy the First 7-inch premium figure, spring 2026. Accessories include tactical shotgun, default pickaxe, which is a harvesting tool, and True North back bling. Never forget your first run, ages 12 plus.
What? Yeah.
And then this is my favorite new phrase, and I think it should maybe be the title for the episode. Finally, this is what the skeptic thread says in response to that improvement. This has evolved into a recursive hallucination loop.
That sounds like it.
Despite your explicit instruction to ignore the file name and transcribe the text from the top of the box, the model has doubled down on its fictional narrative. Ooh, I got to tell it not to say that. It didn't just guess wrong. It fabricated an entire news article, including release dates, price points, and brand partnerships. But then let's act like Syracuse is here. Well, how does it even know this? Like, it's just, anyway, it was just funny because it was so abrupt. This stuff has been kicking ass so fucking hard for, there's no point in even talking about it to people. But like, I fixed so much shit in the last three to 6 weeks. Now that I'm using this other LLM, and I'm like a doorknob in a wet sweater, man. I'm just out there fixing stuff. I'm fixing all of the things. I created a 3D model from scratch that has improved the yield of my ice machine by about 20% from scratch. I mean, no, but like talk about a weird corner case problem. Merlin wants his particular ice machine to not create stalactites, to not create stalagmites that will cause it to not make more. We came up with a thing that fixed it. It's like, that's just one example. I found out a way to redirect the heat under the couch in our lounge to be able to more efficiently pump the heat into the room. I made that from scratch. You know, that stuff the campaign signs are made of. I made an entire structure like for that. Like this. I'm killing it right now. So it was funny and it was abrupt. And I apologize for talking so long. But I thought you'd appreciate that because, of course, the instant I saw recursive hallucination loop, who would I think of but you?
This is
Have you really thought about that phrase and how upsetting that phrase is?
Yeah.
That means your hallucinations are based on hallucinations and you can't stop.
Yeah.
I Daddy,
know.
no likey.
I wonder if this is going to affect your chats in the future because I haven't heard. I hope
this thing is not good at learning stuff from other threads, not as well as ChatGPT anyway.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I could be wrong. Well, sometimes I just explicitly ask it something I know it knows, right? I start a new thread just because it's easier. And like I say, I'm running Gemini in Unite, and boy, is it ever an improvement. It's so much nicer on a Mac. And I've done all the things to make this as Mac-like of an app as I can, short of it being a Mac app. Wait, what was I saying?
You're running it in Unite, which is the...
No, before that. There was
you're fixing a bunch of stuff. You have... You did something with an ice maker I didn't even know was possible.
I'll ask something like... Because sometimes, honestly, I don't remember if it's in this new era, as we say, of ChatGPT or excuse me, of Gemini, or whether it's something I did on ChatGPT. So sometimes I'll ask it just a straight up question like, this morning. Do you recall a problem I had with Plex not being able to stream movies with certain audio encodings? And it says, I don't remember that. And I was able to go link and find that in ChatGPT, and now I'm repurposing that back here. But like sometimes, so you have pretty good luck with that. If you just open a new thread, Command-Shift-0, and if you open a new thread and say, and ask it a question about something recent, it tends to know it.
Yeah, but I'm not doing lots of physical things with it. So I'll say, hey, you know that thing that you researched the other day? Can you expand on that? And then I'll, an example, I had it make a list of all of the comedy vehicle stuff and was like,
I got a lot
okay,
of hallucinations
cool.
in that.
And then,
and
then in another... Yes. And then in another thread, it just so happened, I don't know, just had a different tab open. I'm just using it in a browser. I'm like, hey, the last thing I asked you about comedy vehicle, all of the names are messed up. Can you please give it to me in Markdown and include the correct links? And it worked.
Oh, see, that makes me feel better. I'm fine with that. Although it does get us back, I'm not going to mention his name again, but it does get us back to that problem of like, well, I'm here because I keep misstating the name of this one episode, but you got my back, right? Because they have names like Islamophobia, England, immigration, London 1, London 2, patriotism.
Yeah.
The names are easy to confuse, so you can see why I would confuse it. But like, I did get a little bit of weird hallucination with that. But I noticed it especially because I said, give me the 5 best episodes of Comedy Vehicle. Because I was thinking, part of it was like, well, here's what I know what I think, but like, what does the world think? I've actually found that pretty helpful in general of like, it's generally pretty good at least ChatGPT is pretty good at that. And I think Gemini is good at that. But I just thought it was funny. I was like, I don't want a recursive hallucination loop.
I want people to, I think it's here just like fucking vibe coding and slop, but I just...
Oh boy.
Confabulation feels like the right word. And it was initially until I think like 20, probably until 2022, just something that researchers said, because it's not hallucinating anything. It is creating a thing. It's not seeing.
It feels like it's hallucinating though. I don't think, do you think that's a bad word, hallucinating? Because that's what it feels like. Because it's imagining something that's not there.
But it's not imagining anything. It is creating something with what you've given it. And I think I've just become very annoying in thinking just how weirdly pissed people keep writing and talking about this and how like, oh, you're going to one-shot psychosis. I'm like,
you're going to one-shot psychosis?
Yeah. Oh, I'm surprised you've been.
You're going to one shot. Wait, is one shot a verb in that sentence?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What is one shotting?
There is a theory that you can one shot psychosis by.
Oh my God.
Doing a single.
What does one shot mean? You kill it with one shot?
You put in a single prompt into an LLM and it drives you crazy. So that's something that lots of media people like to write about. It's odd and annoying.
That is hard for me to understand. It is believed by people who could know better, but like it is believed by people that it's almost like The Ring or something. It sounds like a Japanese folk demon. The idea is or let the right one in. Like you type something, the user types something into a prompt, and that causes them to become psychotic. Because then the machine's response to that causes them to become psychotic. It's not just hitting enter that makes them psychotic.
I know, it's reading.
But they one-shotted it with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that you don't know the term one-shot. I'm a little
What's
envious.
it from? Is it from video games?
I believe so. Well, I think it's from guns, and those then became part of video games.
I know no scope.
I don't know. I know that's a thing. I don't really know
no
what
scope
it means.
Is when you shoot without looking through the scope. It's like shooting from the hip.
Are you a gun person? I haven't listened to most. weren't you playing the new fun game with Syracusa where people get, well, then never mind. Never
Jeez,
mind.
I think you're in a loop.
I not today.
I don't want to talk about this too much more. There's somebody I really, really like on the internet, and he's one of those people like we're talking about, where he's real mad about all this.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks it's very disingenuous that some famous tech person said we should stop using the word slop. And every time you use the word, it really frustrates me because I think you're just spreading that word. But anytime anybody uses that phrase, it really frustrates me because I think if you ask any handful of people, they would give you different responses to what they think slop. If you ask them to really like explain what that means, what is or is not slop, I think what you discover is they just don't like the whole idea of AI and thinks that everything that AI creates equals slop is my concern. Is that like, I think like I get the idea of saying like, okay, you made this YouTube thumbnail where everybody's shiny, and I can tell you did this in Midjourney. Like I would be in another world, I would be okay calling that slop. My concern is that without any, I don't know if anybody ever intended to, but it sounds like y'all are saying that everything that every LLM can do is slop. And I could be, sorry, I just got a text. I don't mean to make a straw man out of this, but I will just say this, that I do not think that everything made from, even just from LLMs, let alone all AI, I'm not a big fan of AI. Let's just remember that. But it's not that, if you think everything an LLM makes equals slop, you sound like somebody in 1957 who just hates Chubby Checker. Like, or Chuck Berry or something. Like, you sound like do you realize you sound like previous nuts from previous generations? Like, you sound like somebody who hates the Beatles. And like, you're never going to be talked out of it because you're so adamant about what a problem this is. And it's like, maybe it'll turn out to be, maybe AI in general, LLMs in particular, and the slop, because that's all that it can make is slop. Well, slop has fixed a fuck ton of stuff in my life over the last couple of years. I have not one-shotted psychosis to my knowledge, but like it breaks my heart a little bit because I think that like when people are carrying water for this really blinkered idea that everything this thing makes is garbage, which, I mean, I'm past the point of that hurting my own feelings too much, but because I get it. And clearly they're not using it for anything. Or even worse, you're just jumping on some fucking bandwagon and saying slop. You fucking work in tech and you use the word slop. Like that is fucking weak sauce. But I don't know. I mean, because like that's not one easy conversation to have in however many characters with somebody that you really admire and don't know very well. But it does. But I like the emotional takeaway of that for me is you do sound like somebody who just hates a new thing blindly. And in the case of somebody like Chubby Checker or the Beatles, I maybe you're on the right side of history. Maybe you will be seen as one of our last great patriotic martyrs for the cause of whatever the opposite of slop is, because you're so fucking artisanal, even though all you do all day is write scripts. But like, it's just blinkered is the only word I can think of. It seems like almost willfully ignorant to carry water for such as mad as you are. And I understand, I do understand more than most people I think would realize. Like I can't say this every week, but like, I don't like this stuff either. What I do like is what I get out of using an LLM. That does not make me an advocate for AI. I think it's all really weird and scary too. But people who should know better that do that, like just ask yourselves, when you say slop over and over, I'm not as worried that like you're going to make people like me look bad because we like some of that slop. I'm not as worried about that as I used to be. What I'm more cautionary about as a friend is be careful that you're not turning into a fucking idiot, that your reckons about what all this has meant, and you're completely blindly doomsaying speculations about what it will continue to cause, like, I don't think that's as smart as it sounds.
I don't know if it's ever really sounded smart as much as it's sounded brave, capital B brave, of we are going against the grain. We are the right. Yeah. And I need a better term for this other than the joke of having queer privilege and being around people who are weirdos, and many who do not just hate AI and, you know, standard stuff, but they don't have the certainty of, I think, the people you talk about and have been friends with, that, you know, they've never had to question that before.
It seems like unbottled rage.
It's, I mean,
I think it's, I'm just going to say this. Y'all that are in computers for a living and you call stuff slop, you should know better, whatever. The other thing, and I'm not saying this to you, I can't get into a whole thing with you, I think it's because so many people continue to look at websites that have a bunch of that bullshit. They look at, their YouTube is full of that shit because they have bad taste. They see that on Twitter because they're looking at Twitter. And I think that's part of what makes them even further rageful about this stuff. Like, I guess I don't see that much slop out there, which is part of what, maybe that's my privilege, my queer privilege, is I just don't see it as much as other people. But maybe one reason I don't see it as much as other people, because I'm like one of the bullshit sites that y'all are looking at all day and acting like you're not. Not you.
This challenge. No, I know. This challenge alone has made me double down to realize I am very good at digging. I love tunnels. Yeah. They're great. And
you're a curious person, Alex, for better or for worse.
Well, yes. And sometimes often I will fall into holes. And there is always, though, an interesting way to dig out of that hole. And I will extend that metaphor for the five people who
I thought you were talking about digging into something you're interested in. What is it you're digging out of?
Well, maybe I am digging into something interesting. Like there were a bunch of British jokes or references from the UK in the 80s.
I got a whole thread on that.
From Stuart Lee. Yeah, and I'm like, wait, am I dumb? Is this you're not smart enough for this? Or were you not alive in the noughties?
I love when I'm supposed to hate Tommy Flanagan because I'm just checking. Or Michael McIntyre. There's these certain characters that just keep coming up and you're like, oh, I don't know the context for like why that guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah, and more recently he's been making fun of John Cleese, and I'm like,
yeah, John Cleese has gotten a little silly.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't think I need to. I did a cursory search. I'm like, okay, no, this is not something I need to dig on.
But also he's iconoclastic. You know, that's just part of his thing. Yeah,
right. And I think that's it sounds a little bit, I don't know, almost nihilistic, and I don't mean like you should hide from the realities of living under fascism, but I don't think that I need to know what weird thing John Cleese said or a new thing that Ricky Gervais
Oh, good for you.
said.
And you realize that you don't need to dig on that, you feel like.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. I mean,
like,
around 2018, it's exhausting. Like you make fun
just
of me
ride
for
this. I don't know how else to say it, but like, it's just that, you know, if I were trying to persuade somebody to give this stuff a chance, I would have to say that some of the stuff is definitionally, some of his funniest stuff definitionally is very heavily English or British in nature, like in terms of references, in terms of politics, in terms of history. And the thing is, though, I maybe I've just watched it enough or read enough to like know, but like I think you just have to ride it out and not feel like the first time you don't understand a word or a reference, a turn of phrase, why everyone's laughing. Like if I did that with Monty Python, I never would have made it through the first episode of Monty Python I ever tried to watch Monty Python, when you're 12 years old, is an exercise in learning to look past stuff you don't understand. And you won't realize that when you first turn it on. Because like the kind of stuff that used to be on PBS on Saturday nights when I was a kid, like it was just, what a minefield for somebody who doesn't like things they don't understand. You know, like Keeping Up Appearances and Are You Being Served? I meant Are You Being Served? Doctor Who, you know, all those kinds of things. But, you know, I think there's context clues throughout for all of these things. And another way to look at it is, well, I guess that's just something I don't understand. Is it critical to me? Like, if you showed me a picture of Rod Little, or you showed me a picture of, who's the UKIPS guy? Paul Nuttall. If you showed me a picture of him in Liverpool telling nostalgic stories in a whiny voice, go back to because he's very concerned about
the concept of reality.
He's very. Remember the old Nothing song? Nothing, there's nothing. Remember the old Nothing? You keep your doors unlocked because they didn't exist. If you showed me a picture, I wouldn't know who any of these people are. Like, I know Nigel Farage. It's very funny to see him talking about, believe it or not, you know, Boris Johnson is the mayor of modern London. Like, he's not the comedy mascot.
I'm going to tell you 3 jokes.
Oh my God. But all of those, there are times like, but I get it. I get enough about knowing his character that like, I don't need like a Norton annotated edition or a Folger's Library version where every other page is just definitions of what forsooth means and stuff like that.
Pretty quickly, you realize that, I think, because...
But do you follow what I mean, though? Where, like, if you were somebody, you go, oh, this is this thing that Alex likes. This is this thing Merlin likes. I'll go check this out. And the first thing you see is, like, this guy, or, like, God, of course, the Chris Morris stuff, which is just sublime to me. Doesn't it make you want to see more stuff from Chris Morris, just based on the Inquisitor scenes?
Yeah. And it's not available in the U.S., so even...
Yeah.
So frustrating. I just kept watching this thinking, the government paid for this. He dressed up in a big fish costume. And
oh my God, Kevin Eldon. God. Kevin Eldon, who's like, he's a monad, man. Kevin Eldon's in everything. The guy who's always, you know, heaps the fish and he's, you know, he's in the urinal.
Oh God, that's... I
just piss off an old man's face.
For, I think, obvious reasons, I'm not super familiar with a lot of alternative 80s UK comics, and I'm surprised to know that I'll say I think I am like most excited about a 50-something comedian from the UK who is openly like, I think I'm really old and scared and I don't know really what to do about it.
Right.
And it's probably
everything's
not very
changing
good.
so fast. In some ways, it is, I'm not trying to raise up Roderick and me, but in terms of the pointless bitching that John and I do about life, you know, we each have our good weeks and bad weeks, but the bitching, the middle-aged man bitching that we do about life, I feel a lot of common cause with Stuart Lee in that sense of like, not only are things changing really fast and getting dumb in a way that bugs me, but like a lot of the skills that both society and I used to have to deal with this don't feel useful anymore. And it's like, it's easy to put that in a way where you just sound like a typical old person, which if we are, that's fine. But notice that the subtlety of what I'm trying to say is that I feel like there were times in life where at least I had more tools that I could put my hand to cause change. And a lot of those skills that I used to have at doing a certain thing don't have a relevance anymore. And I think that comes through with what he's doing. It's just that in his case, his job for 40 years has been making fun of stand-up comedy through meta-comedy, and that is still his tool. It's just the things that he's useless about in life continue to evolve. He's wearing hearing aids. He's gained all this weight. Morrissey's really let himself go.
What's wild about it is that's been what you call bitching and what I think of is as a
Cultural
phenomenal
criticism?
like
I'm a cultural critic.
there was I don't want to say it was a mediocre interview, but kind of a mediocre interviewer. There's this show called How Would You Change the World that he was on.
Is that the
like,
one with the red
fairly-
background, with the Netflix red background? Is it Richard
maybe
Lester?
I'll get it
Was it
in-
or with, I'm sorry, Richard Herring?
I don't know. I'll get it. I'll put it in notes.
Yeah, I think I've seen those go by.
But I think if you don't want to know anything about Stuart Lee, just why does Alex like him? At one point he says the binary nature of it is so tedious, just in terms of comedy and the internet. And that is what is missing, at least for me, just in terms of seeing any sort of, or rather discovering any new comedy online. And I don't know if I have good taste, but I know that because I do actively avoid so many algorithmic platforms, that I am, even if I go looking for something, it is hard to find. It is easier to find when, like, if you go on Gemini and say, hey, tell me about shows in Chicago recently with comedians who have been inspired or comedians who have opened for whoever, which is why I like to say that a lot of the people who, a lot of the Gen X internet men who are really mad about this, it just has broken bad for them because they've always been at the top of the big SEO pile.
Oh God, it's
and
so true.
my
So
stuff
true.
is like, I am finding people that I can find interesting things. Again, the internet feels more fun because it's, at least for now, like if everything changed and LLMs went away tomorrow, my life and the people I care about, like their lives have gotten a lot better just by, again, getting stuff done, removing friction, and being able to find and research, not like putting in all of their medical history, although I absolutely do that and do all the
you're
things
making
shouldn't.
a really good point.
But
I mean, that's a really good point.
It's like the stuff that was really, really hard to find, even back, God, in pre-2011, YouTube had a lot of queer creators on it, sharing really just little blogs and stuff. And I know there's a bunch of discourse of how Google, YouTube is a platform for creators of us, like that's what you do to be a movie star and blah blah blah. But this was before that. There would be just full swaths of people who would disappear, and that was kind of, unless you were a weirdo like me, subscribed to an RSS feed, you just wouldn't see
because they fell
people.
off the algorithm.
They fell, or they were fully kicked off YouTube because for
Then how
a
did
while.
you find them in your RSS feed?
It would be both. Like it was around half if you were talking about anything sexually explicit.
I see.
And the definition of sexually explicit would change a bunch. And that isn't as much of an issue when you're not, when you are using or searching for things on the web and trying to just look for something that I don't know, you knew how to look for because all of your friends were making it in 2005. And
There's also a funny thing that happens where there's a kind of argument that a lot of us have with each other. I know it's an argument, but a disagreement or a dust up that I have with my friends where we all kind of differ about things like, how do you find that fact? How do you know if that's true? How do you look things up? How do you, if you want advice on how to like rewire an outlet, like where would you go to find that? And just insert once here, like all the things where like Syracuse and I would go back and forth. I laugh at him because he looks at Wikipedia. He laughs at me because I look at LLMs. Because I'm not sure either one of us is looking at the source of truth in the world. But that's not the point. Here's the thing. There's these internecine wars that we have with other nerdy-ish people about the way that we go about discover, or not discover, sorry, okay, very, very deliberately, I want to say not discovering, how we track down the information that we need to do the things that we want. And some of us prefer this over that. But really, we're arguing about tools to execute on some kind of a plan, in some ways would be one way to look at it, versus looking at the internet as a discovery engine. And this is the part where it gets complicated. And I think where we end up, maybe I especially end up working at cross purposes with people, is because, like, obviously, if something starts out as a what do they say? Like, you think about like the way that anime used to be a genre and then became a medium, a platform, like whatever. Like sometimes things are bigger than they first appear to be. So you saying you're into the internet in 1995 is really different from saying you're into the internet in 2026. It just sounds weird, right? Because like, well, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? The distinction I'm making poorly is that if I'm gonna use that word, I don't love using this word, algorithm, right? There are algorithms at play that mostly exist to tell you what you should pay attention to, right? Pay more attention to this than to that. I think that's one way to think about algorithms, is an attention management device. These are every single thing I'm saying here is very obvious until I get up to this one distinction. Okay, so how do I learn about the world? Oh, I just open Apple News and I start scrolling, and holy God, what an unholy mess of information is in Apple News. I've given up on ever like trying to really improve it much, but for a long time I did very actively curate more articles like this, less like this, block this source, da 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 da. No matter what I did, it was still so stupid. And like, but there's no differentiation. Like everything's equally important to everything else. And like stuff I tell it I don't want to know about, it keeps telling me about. You follow? Like, so as that to me is an example of a sort of an anti-pattern where you're like, I got to catch up on my news. So I'll open Apple News. But Apple News is just this like, here's all these different things that obviously I don't fucking care about that app and how it's presented. But here's just a bunch of stuff. Go look at this, click things, there's ads. And it's garbage, but like I think one of the crux I'm trying to get at is that I think sometimes when we have friction with each other about these things, what we're not, perhaps, I'm just thinking about this, so this is not a completed thought. We're not really fully differentiating between ways of learning what I should pay attention to versus learning what I need to do to improve the things that I pay attention to.
I want also to clarify, when I say algorithm, I do not mean like capital A. Kind of, it's not exactly how people say stuff. Usually when they say like the
recommendation engine, would recommendation engine be better?
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of folks don't. Right. It's my whole like your LCD screen isn't trying to make you mad. It is the stuff, the intent, a human made that to make you upset. Or to make money off you being upset or whatever. Whereas another really cool thing with LLMs has been making algorithms for things like Blue Sky. That it's dicey. It kind of breaks.
You're doing good. Keep going.
It'll sometimes break, but it's like, oh my God, man, it's been so just fun to.
Wait, so I'm sorry, I really don't want to lose track of this, Alex. You were onto something really good. What is the thing that you wanted to clarify?
I want to clarify that by algorithm, I mean, like you said, like a discovery engine that you control that right. I would never be able to, because I'm a dum-dum and didn't go to college for this. And math is hard for me. But, being able to customize it in a way that no other, there just hasn't been a resource to do it in the way that I want to in a while. And in this case, I'm specifically talking about Blue Sky just because it is, I think, if you just use their like stock app, it's really hard to find new and interesting things. But if you kind of dick around with it, there like are people who aren't just repeating the four
talking about
news
applying
stories.
Some kind of something where you can give it information about what you like. I mean, are you talking about through the web app or through an API? Like you give it information and it learns from you? Like at what level are you doing that with Blue Sky?
the it sounds like ATP, but it is the
What sounds like ATP?
The AT protocol, which is it basically is a new way to, it's like a new API that's similar to the way the Fediverse works, but just different enough. I know. Well, that's the thing. I can't explain it well. There are people.
I know.
Who
I like
can
hearing you talk.
explain it
I like
better.
hearing you talk about it, but this is just excruciating to me. I just don't understand why this is interesting.
It's not interesting. What's
But do you
interesting is
apply it
saying
locally?
this is
Are you
what
running it locally, like a model you run locally?
No, there's a number of apps, and a friend of this there's a couple betas that are really promising, and it actually
betas
works
of what, Alex?
Of apps that let you look
an
at
app
blue
for your
sky.
iOS device, for your Mac. It's an app that
both.
does what?
It is, let's say, analogous to how a lot of Twitter clients used to work and their API, except there's even more control where, let's say I will go to Gemini and say, hey, here's what I would like to see in my blue sky timeline. And then it creates a bunch of numbers and symbols, and you can put that into an app and say, this is a certain feed I want to see, and it creates that for you. And I mean, it's just it reminds me of how, the really old, when the original
but based on the
Twitter,
feeds you put in, it suggests others?
it just surfaces.
I don't understand what it does.
It surfaces different accounts that
based on things you like, it finds people you might like.
Yeah, and it's not just a keyword search or anything like that.
Right,
it's a little, again, it is smarter in ways that I do not understand, but it's also something that I haven't been able to do since the very first time I think Twitter's For You kind of worked. And even then, it was just like checking boxes, and it felt a little bit like a keyword search. And I just... I understand that it is hard to find good things on the internet for a lot of people who used to have what they wanted, shown to them. And God, I sound like such like a woke asshole being like, oh man, what's like, quote, for you now is really depressing and sad. And so you don't want to go looking somewhere else. It feels weird to me, and that is a place I no longer dig, because those people that I was tangentially knew and were tangentially friends with aren't interesting and have become unkind to people who are different to them, and a way that
you need some replacements.
No.
You do. You need new people. You need, like, everybody changes, everybody ages, and it's like we all, the nature of that change is definitionally dynamic. We're both changing. We're all changing. And so I don't think that's weird at all to want to find, I mean, I'll put, if you're not going to put it this way, I will. If I cannot be as engaged with and amused by the people who used to engage with me and amuse me, I need to find other people, additional people. It doesn't mean I'm going to abandoning those people or saying I hate them, but I mean, no matter how much you like corn, once it's all off the cob, you got to go find more corn.
I think what I'm struggling, well, and,
I'm
and
so
I think
earthy.
What I am, I think, struggling with is sort of the fear and I'm seeing people have fear and resentment that I'm like, have you never experienced like feeling unsure before? Have you not ever felt alienated by a community before? Like that, I guess, I don't know. I might have had too much faith in a lot of people I looked up to on the internet before. But just
But they're not used. They're not used to. I'm not saying this is all of what you're saying, but it sounds like part of what you're saying is these are people who, for whatever reason, are not used to everything being the way they want or expect.
Yeah.
Like welcome to the club, in other words.
Yeah, and they're also the kind of guys who are like, not everything has to be for you, but see, I'm just chicken probleming and out because
Yeah, I don't really understand the problem. What you're ultimately describing, it sounds like, is you're interrogating, I think very honestly, why you feel frustrated about this time and why you feel, let's say it, disappointed by some of the people, and then what you do as a result, kind of.
How to
You just say it.
people who think they are leaders with just zero sense of like I don't know. It is something I'm interrogating because I don't even want to dig that much because I don't think it's useful to listen to people who used to have something interesting to say and are just now not curious and aren't doing anything interesting anymore and are
But that becomes emotional
harming.
for you because you are disappointed. You're bummed.
That's why the whole
could
I
say
know
yes.
Stuart Lee's character is a character, but his whole hostility towards the audience of like, why aren't you understanding that like
Oh, boy,
this
I
isn't
get
the good
that.
part of the joke? Why won't and the whole breakdown is that it it is an incredibly funny bit. I adore it. But when breaking character and the things that I've seen in like the interviews, this clearly is a man who very, very much cares about.
Also, he's making fun of people like himself.
And
Honestly, I mean, I
which
think
is
that's part of it is like his exaggerated version of I hate technology. I hate, what does he say? Twitter's like a Stasi. What does he say? It's like a government surveillance run by gullible volunteers.
And in 2012, he was saying, or this might have been one of the 2016 episodes.
There's Stuart Lee. He looks fat and depressed.
Yeah.
Celebrity update. Hackney. Stuart Lee. 11:30 a.m. He looks depressed.
God.
Rocco Mladic.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And I don't see that as bitching though, but a genuine interrogation. Although well, fine, I will spoil it because if you cared, you'd seen it already. Not really, but there. I don't like. I know that Ricky Gervais is a dick, and I don't care for most of his stuff, so I don't pay attention to it. However, it was really cathartic to watch him do, let's say, a Ricky Gervais impression for like a solid 10 minutes. That
What was Stuart Lee?
Yeah, do you see Snowflake? It's not one of my favorites.
No, me neither.
but-
Neither of those really grabbed me. I thought Content Provider was funnier personally.
That I just finished downloading that. I am excited. Although I don't know what could beat if you want.
Well,
but
I
don't.
listen, I want to talk about the challenge. Hold
No, I'm sorry. It just felt so. Well, okay. So here,
determined to make this sad.
no. That's the thing is. This week has been. If I tell you what I do on weekends, it sounds sad. But what has been so fun has been just sharing this. I'm like, oh my God, guys,
Alex,
Merlin
dude, I'm
found
thrilled to
this
hear
thing.
you say this because this is
Yeah.
all the time. It sounds like I'm saying ignore the world, I imagine, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm
It's
saying
really
is like you can
hard
pay,
to say it and not
but
sound
you can
like
pay
a
attention to
dick.
the world and be delighted in life. You need to have a backup plan to just being sad about everything forever. And just being, and again, like this is the other part of this. And I always feel like this is just, I don't know why other people aren't like really kind of enervated, feeling the need to talk about this. But like, I'm really fucking over agreeing to be sad about everything that everyone else is sad about in the same way, at the same time, and on the same schedule. I mean, like, I guess it sounds ridiculous to be pushing 60.
That schedule is a good. That's a good way to. That was good.
Like, I have
fuck.
I'm not close to him anymore, but a guy I used to be very close to. He's a very funny internet guy, but he used to go to this through these things, I used to I would say to his partner, I said, oh, he's going through another one of his 36-hour rage flus. He had to go through these 36-hour like freakouts about something that was a bee in his bonnet. Basically, everyone's like this now, but he was uniquely like this and very funny about it. But he would just, on the one hand, he would just go, I have a friend who would go crazy and start making memes and start doing stuff and start like, but then a funny thing would happen several hours into this, which I hate to admit how I can get this because I get this, is he would be frustrated that more people weren't doing it with him. And so he would like cajole more people to join his 36-hour rage flu. Now, if you want to read ahead a little bit, by hour 48, he was usually on to a different thing that he was having rage about. Right. But still would enjoy the engagement of like, now you go make fun with this PSD that I created for you. But like wonderful, great, funny, hilarious, smart guy. But like, I now feel like more and more people are just kind of a little bit like that. Maybe not as interestingly full of rage, but the schedule part does become important because I don't see an improvement pattern in spending much of the rest of my life, in order to, sort of go along to get along idea. Like, I don't see a good future for anybody in agreeing to have other people's emotions on their schedule. And if it happens that you can do that, that's good. But be aware of how much, I'll keep saying this, I guess, until I don't, but like how many times it feels like the only opportunity, if you really look at what you're doing, not just fucking like, oh yeah, good stuff, but like actually look at what you're doing. Look at how much of your one's search for community ends at, or like at least pauses at something I can be mad about alongside somebody else. We can both be mad publicly about the same thing. And I just feel like there aren't many things besides that left in terms of online communities anyway. I don't see a lot of stuff where people are doing, and again, I always want to make this distinction. I'm talking about, I'm saying negative. I'm not saying do the opposite of negative, which appears to be positive. I'm doing something different from that binary. You don't have to be negative or positive. But what I can say is if you're constantly negative, like, wow, well, what are you canceling to be negative today? And that's why I look at stuff like this, or honestly something like Graham Norton, or honestly disappearing into 3D printing, or being able to like, do something that improves my family's life by making something for the house. Like, as dumb as all of that sounds, like, I'm trying to claw back my own humanity after 10 years of feeling very, very sad about everything all the time and pretty much concomitant with the desired schedule of other people. And I'm ready to push back against that. I've been pushing back against it privately, and I'm increasingly encouraging all of us to push back against it publicly, which is to go back to what I said last week, probably on the main episode. I would love it if you guys would discover Stuart Lee, because if any of you actually fucking clicked on one of those links and watched it, I know a bunch of you would like it. Let's set that aside for a minute. What I'm really trying to say is find something that you're as excited about. Maybe not just for 36 hours. And maybe, I'm not saying it's positive, but like find something that drives your decision making and certainly aesthetics. Find new things. Literally read another book. And like there's so much out there in the world, and there's just not much of a future for a society and culture that got as far as we have as societies and cultures. Like, it's really depressing to me to think that like this is how it at least feels like so many people are just stuck on, as horrible as everything is. Well, let's come back in 6 weeks and see if you feel any better, or if the world got better. But like being a perpetual sad sack who just agrees to toe the line about perma-sad, like if that's improving stuff, show me the proof of that. Because all I see is a kind of excruciating nihilism based on not much except I haven't looked at other options.
I didn't know that you felt like this for so long. That's
really? I figured it just, I feel it's probably like some kind of like, seeping wound in public that like, oh, Merlin's still like a sad sack about this stuff. And it's like, and of course, like, it's difficult to say, well, I actually do have a life that's not what you hear on a podcast. There is other stuff I do. I don't spend my whole day obsessed about this stuff. This is the opportunity I have to mention it. And I'm not trying, I realize I might sound very emotional about this, but the emotions that I have about this, I don't think they're the typical guy being mad emotions. It's more like, oh man, you guys rule so fucking hard. But like, what have you done? What are you doing? What did you austere? Can you austere anything? And then the chicken voice in my head always comes back with, yeah, but like with things the way they are, how could you be any way except like that? And it's like that, but 10 years, guys, we've been saying that for 10 years. Like, what's your hope for the future? Do you have any aesthetic and existential aspirations beyond like not being alone in your sadness today? Is there any greater aspiration that you can find? And as dumb as it sounds, for me, comedy with which I actively engage and think about puts me on a much more even beam than reloading a web page where everybody's even sadder than I am. Can we talk about the shows? Can I say one thing and then we'll talk about the shows?
Yes.
Or not?
Oh no, I am emotional right now. Not in a bad way. That was.
How do you mean?
I didn't realize that.
It's very lonely.
Like I said
very
before,
lonely.
that
Ridiculously
I
lonely.
know that's why it makes me sad because that's
yeah. Well, I feel like Peter Brady at the party where it's like, oh my gosh, it's and I don't know, whatever. It's probably just very unself-aware and because I don't deal with enough like real people or something. But like I see so much in people that could be something cool. It could be something kind. It could be something humane. And again, who knows? Maybe people are just going and treating the internet as a urinal trough. And they're just shooting for those Maltese flies. And that's just like what they use that for. Like I'm treating it like a tabernacle and they're treating it like a place where the Maltese flies buzz. I love that book.
This.
Honk at me in the traffic circle, Stu. Did it bother you? Did it bother you, Graham? No. It was like a child tearing off an old man's face. This is something I wrote in the wisdom document, and it's not strictly related to this, and yet I would like to read it out loud. Some people like to tell you what to pay attention to. Many people want to determine how you should feel about that, and others specialize in advising exactly what you should do as a result, right? What to pay attention to, how you should feel about it, what you should do as a result. Just be aware that these are each different things, and it's probably wise to avoid people who are adamant about demanding to control all three. Because there are people in this world that would like to tell you what to pay attention to. They would like to tell you how to feel about it, and to put it saliently, what your options are for doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And I want to remind you, first of all, make sure you're not getting all three of those from one place. But I also want to remind you, because you guys are smarter than the average bear, all of those are optional. You do not have to let other people tell you what to pay attention to. You do not have to let people tell you how to feel about it. And you are absolutely not obligated to follow anybody's advice about what your options are in life. And you must raise yourself up as a fucking human being and hold your chin high and be willing to pay attention to what you need to pay attention to decide how you're going to feel about that, and then to actively, affirmatively, maturely discover and exercise your options for doing anything about it. Your cognition stack is entirely your own, and don't let anybody tell you that anybody else is allowed to have any claim to that.
Shall we do the challenge?
We've been doing the challenge. Let's keep doing the challenge. Hey, I'm curious. What stuff that really jumped out to you? Is there any stuff? Well, like, so we're talking about a comedian named Stuart Lee.
But we're not talking about what we're talking about for me was I mean, comedy vehicle.
You'd seen like my
is
links
a special
to stuff,
thing.
right? And like you'd seen what had you seen before this week?
I'd seen less than I thought, actually. I think I'd seen more interviews with him talking about comedy than actually.
The one with Rob Brydon's pretty good.
Yes. I
think he seems charming in that, and like you can tell he's kind of goofy and not how he is, and he's just a professional who has a character.
What Stuart Lee does, and I keep calling him Steve Lee. I don't know why. I probably already have. Sorry. The kind of like, I mean, his specials are sometimes 2 hours long, and that is a lot to ask of somebody.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I like that someone asks that, and I can totally see how this would not be for someone, because I think that
if you were to like introduce somebody, like I could be wrong, but I had suggested like one way to just, it depends. Like it's hard for me because I'm not sure if it's the best, the first, the favorite, but like, for example, somewhere either Carpet Remnant World or probably, if you prefer, a milder comedian. I just feel like that's like the funniest, like Stuart Lee-ish like special. Partly because I love the stuff. I don't know. Did you get all the way through? Did you get all the way to Give It To Me Straight Like Parasite or Made From 100% Pears? Did you get to that?
Oh God,
Give It To Me Straight Like Parasite. That's something they used to say in his family. I mean, okay, that's excruciating comedy unless you really think it's funny. You don't want to. Whereas, like, I feel like maybe the England episode is too much, but there are some, like, for example, the satire episode, I think, is a pretty good one. I'm mentioning a lot of these, but like, you could drop somebody into and go, oh, that's pretty good, just funny stand up.
And I disagree. I think if you just want good, funny stand-up, that I don't know if this is for you, like, and that's fine. But I would go straight into childhood. I would just go into the belly of the beast.
You don't consider that to be too high a level of, because it's really not funny for long parts before you get what the exercise is. I mean, that almost has 3 acts, even though it really only has one story, right? It's got the little bit, then it's got the like talking into it, and then it's got the slowly emerging, he's mad that you're not following.
Yeah.
And you're making your own, you're bringing in your own jokes kind of stuff. But it's the fact that his rage for that gets greater and greater, but then he's able to still pull it back to an actually slightly poignant thing. Whether or not being peed on is true, he is talking about the commoditization of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. And I think
which is what other stand-up comics do over and over and again. When he does that little thing where he runs around on stage, you remember Gripping Hands Action Man?
I also did like him.
What's he talking about? How could he's talking about all these places I've never heard of? People in the North writing in. Why is he talking about London?
That's I
don't even know what that is.
So ahead of it's.
And the camera,
so
don't you love his use of the camera though? In like looking at the camera, isn't he great at that?
Yeah,
you hear that? That's the sound of the liberal intelligentsia clapping themselves.
I couldn't find information. I'm like, it's like Taskmaster, where I'm like, I want to know who is producing this, because this is wild. Like fucking BBC. Like, oh my God.
I know. That Tim Kirby name comes up a lot.
Yeah. And I will also say, because if I'm going to be unseemly and address the audience. Mm-hmm. If you're like, I'm not into panel shows and the like older things that
Lee Mack says he couldn't even succeed on a panel show. In his book, Lee Mack said specifically,
I
couldn't cut the mustard. You don't cut mustard, you spread it.
Stuart Lee is like the opposite of a UK panel show, but with the British humor that if like you like old Edgar Wright
mentions
stuff,
Bill Hicks. I mean, he is in some ways very similar in some ways to somebody with 2 hours of material. It's easy to be a legend, but he is kind of similar to Bill Hicks, I would say. I mean, he's very, or maybe like from a different era, George Carlin. People think of George Carlin because of his famous lines, but there was a lot of stuff where George Carlin would just come out and just like kind of wander around and walk the stage. And like with Stu, it's not always clear. You don't always pick up immediately on where it's going. It frequently goes places very different. And I think in addition to all the other reasons, for American viewers, his rapid changes in tone and wall breaking probably start to feel a little cute or unexplainable. Because you really need to watch. You really need to pay attention because he's going to make callbacks to stuff that it sounds like he's just saying you're not paying attention. But he's making, it's threaded through with this bigger point that will pull together at the end in a way that's almost like a symphony.
It is a long poem, everyone. And I don't know. I don't know what to say other than like if you are so bored by a lot of the comedy you've seen lately, it's weird and it's fun. And if you were like me, a huge fan of Come Town and the old Adam Friedland show,
glad
like
you finished that phrase. If like me, you're a huge fan of Come Town.
You were a big fan of Come Town and just the absurdist comedy that you felt a little bit like you were kind of a willing hostage in a situation, it is a weird delight. And I mean, God, what I didn't write it down, but he said something that I think it was asked for another comedian, but is like, what's the like last bastion of comedy? What's allowed in comedy? And just says it's something like, it seems like the last thing you're allowed to do is be a man trying really hard to make something that is really good. And it's right before the Pear cider song.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really, it didn't feel like bitching.
A lot of repetition. And some of the repetition is obvious. But like if you're somebody who likes words and you think repetition can be funny, notice that it's not dumb and it's not obvious. Like when he does the bit in England, he's a taxi driver, and this was his opening conversational gambit, and that's one of his bits, which is he pulls out a card and starts reading it. These days, you get arrested and thrown in jail just for saying you're English. I think that's the first time he says it. And then notice that with each repetition, he rarely says it anywhere near the same way, in the same order anyway. But do you follow what I mean? It's part of what makes it start to feel kind of intoxicating, because he's not just saying the same sentence over and over in the same way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because wait, you're saying these days, wait, you're saying these days, just for saying you're English, just you get arrested, but he's thought this through. He's not just like, he's not actually befuddled about this. The way he's doing it is like, this is something Steve Coogan talks about too. Like when you're trying to do funny audio, he talks about this great bit. There's an interview recently where he talks about doing Alan Partridge. And like, just when you're doing these kinds of audio, like you'd be amazed to know how much precision and rehearsal and writing goes into getting that. And I think you see that with Stu. But there's the kind of repetition that's like I said, the most excruciating thing I've seen him do is Rod Little and the Papa Don. I don't know if you saw that one, but like it's not that funny and it goes on forever. But it's not just repetition of one sound; it's repetition of themes. But when he does, like again, to go back to England, the UKIP's episode, these days you get arrested. Mm-hmm. Says, but the way that, think about the repetition inside of repetitions that he does, where he goes like, I still think that's probably my favorite episode. You know, these days you get arrested, thrown in jail, He says, but I was worried about this. You got the UKIP party, UKIP's run by Paul Nuttall of Liverpool, who says, and he pulls out the card, Bulgarians should go back to Bulgaria. What's the phrase? But like, go back to Bulgaria to ensure the economic prosperity of Bulgaria, the best and brightest. So then he comes back to that and he starts repeating that, and then he's repeating that when in the long bit about the Huguenots and the Beaker folk, he's using that kind of repetition. But also even just the way he goes, so the UKIP, Rob, not all of UKIP. The way but like, you know what I mean? Like it's that repetition inside of repetitions that is, I don't want to say it's like jazz exactly, but it's closer to a percussion instrument than American comedy is, right? There's something about the way he's doing that. It almost lulls you in. Then there'll be some zinger, and then he comes back to a theme from earlier, and then by repetition, he lets you know, okay, now we're back to talking about this part. Why am I saying all this, and why is it so confusing? Because if you're not paying attention, this just sounds like an English guy complaining. Mm-hmm. And if you are really paying attention, even just in one 30-ish minute episode, it's so rewarding. Now, take it a step further. Now, let's say you pay attention for the whole season, and you go back to like the beginning of season 3. You know, and just the entire thing with Chris Morris talking about
from 1 to 4, just
it's so different. Keep how different.
It's wild. Like I 1 and 2.
He has
a
mantle,
good,
literally
oof.
a mantle, literally creaking with awards. The shots back to Chris Morris, just looking at him incredulously. But that becomes repetition too, because that's the Inquisitor now talking to the actual Stuart Lee, supposedly out of character, and saying, what is happening with your career? Like you're so obviously so ill, you can't even really stand for a half hour. Morrissey's really let himself go. But like this, but then that kind of, I don't know, it just all feeds back in. And it's like a lot of British comedy and like a lot of, how about this, guys, world building stuff. Like you can read just one of the John chapters of Song of Ice and Fire and go like, oh, this is cool, I like this, and you get the gist. But then as you pull back, you see more about, oh, there's world building here, and there's all these things, and there's actually multiple books, and blah, 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 and so on. And I feel like especially with Stuart Lee, but with a lot of stuff that I find engrossing, things like D&D and indie rock, by changing the amount of focus, you can bring more into the world. And as somebody who has now explored a lot of Stuart Lee's career, I have to say, it kind of makes each of the parts funnier when you go back. Because now you have a better view of what this all ends up being. And how funny is it, though, honestly, to go back to, 1990, mid-90s, and the 28 years old joke?
My God.
Did you see him and Richard Herring doing the joke?
He's a complete disgrace.
He's a disgrace to his family.
I had to go, I'm like, wait, haven't
because
I heard
then the Munchkins, Munchkins will be sad when they find out that the old woman has died. 28 years old he is.
Oh, my God.
And Madeline laughed out loud last night, and I said, see, Madeline, this is what I'm saying. And when I say he does it once a year, I don't mean it that way. It isn't like Steve Martin going, excuse me, for 5 years. It's this bit that is a joke with so many layers and yet no levels. It's just funny because it is a dumb, lame thing for a stand-up comedian to do. But guess what? Fuck you, because he does that lame joke so well. And part of the reason he's good at it is he knows how lame the joke is. And
never acknowledges it. God, like at the...
Children's jokes are always 28 years old. When will you learn?
I will say that childhood, I think, is the best. Merlin was right when he said most accomplished performance, but it's really extremely dark, and it's like if you watch
you're super not sure whether you're supposed to laugh, even if you know Stuart Lee. Don't you feel like in the second and third act you're kind of like, shit, like he's really willing to bring this room entirely down. And then, and critically, hold it until somebody starts laughing uncomfortably. And then another person starts laughing. And once a few people start laughing uncomfortably, he lights up with the whole like, no, you're not, this is not.
He's like, that's what
is that what you want? Is that what
you
want?
The easy joke is, the easy joke.
I can write jokes. I know how to write jokes. I just choose not to. You like that?
Oh my God! And
did you see did you see the Cafe Nero bit with the card in Scotland?
It's blue.
You're too. I see your problem, mate. You're 2 stamps shy of coffee. But there's one great thing where you're thinking like, oh, Stuart Lee, and he's up there, he's being silly, and he has this painting, and in what seems like a mistake, he takes the microphone, he bonks the card with the microphone, and then very loudly drags it across the cardboard, and the entire audience roars with laughter. And he's like, Is that it? Is that what you want? Like, you want to hear sound effects with a microphone? That's funny to you? I would notice that this is doing better than the other material.
The way I think
this is the worst episode of our show ever.
Go,
this is a terrible way to describe this comedian. People are going to hate this.
I think most of his stuff feels far more like something you would see. I've never been to Edinburgh. I can't pronounce it.
He's very Edinburgh French. Yeah,
I mean, I'll say it is very like Chicago avant-garde.
It's performance art. It really is performance art.
Like if you were ever at a early one of like the early Clickhole shows when they were going on tour, and you're like, wait, is the keynote? I know the keynotes are kind of like slides are now pretty common, but when you're like, wait, what is this? I just really enjoy when I'm seeing something.
Yeah.
What am I watching?
But there's this general pattern. I totally agree with you. There's this more general pattern of like, okay, we're going to see this comedy show, and your friend maybe goes, oh, it's kind of unusual, but blah, blah, blah. And you go there. Maybe it's the first time you've ever seen a Herald, right? Or whatever. And you go and you're like, wait a minute. When do people come out in front of a brick wall and talking to the microphone? You're like, oh, it's not really that kind of comedy show. You know what I mean? Like where you don't have a context for what it is and especially if you just like an Edinburgh thing, you show up at 10 in the morning to go see somebody's show they do every day. And I don't really know, like imagine the first time you walked in and saw Taskmaster and you were like, what is this? What is this? I mean, there's some have you seen those? They're like super short, there's like a 2-minute video of the first Taskmaster at Edinburgh.
Oh, no, but sorry. I just put that on my watch list because it was...
because very little
like
footage exists. There's some some phone footage of like later ones, but no, but you know what I mean? The difference between like, okay, on the one level, you go, okay, like one time I've seen Mark Maron a couple times. One time I met and hung out with him at Max FunCon. But then another time, Matt and I went in to see him. I think it was us, yeah. Might have been You Look Nice Today. I forget. But anyways, you go, oh, Mark Maron. Oh, that's that podcaster I know who's an actor and comedian. And you have a pretty good idea what to expect. Versus, like I say, a double act that's doing, it's a kind of magic. Like you'd be like, what the fuck is that? Or even like George Lucas talk show on stage, where it's like this, stage reading thing that has huge elements of improv to it. But like when you don't really have a container for what you're about to have decanted for you, it can be a really especially exciting experience if you're into it.
That's why I find myself often bored by panel shows. And I thought for a while it was just
sticky. Yeah.
But it's not just that. It feels like a bad improv show or a bad podcast where everyone is waiting to say the joke. I know some of them do have writers and some don't. And part of it is probably
a lot of that's fairly written, unless it's Sam Campbell, who's an agent of chaos.
But when I saw, when you go into Taskmaster, though, it's felt like, I'm like, oh, if this is what because I think they do describe it at some point as, like part panel show, and there's just so many, it's like, if this was...
I think it's closer to a panel show than a stand-up gig, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm just
but it's, it's also got reality. It's a reality show also, supposedly, right?
There's like 7. This is why I think that you should make a playlist about this is a Taskmaster clip of the amazing production value. Oh, this is a Taskmaster clip.
I was watching one last night.
Greg and Alex
it's all I can
together.
do not to add every season 19 episode to that new list I started. Because I've just been rewatching sort of randomly season 19. It really is a very, very good season. And also, to your point, though, has some of the best production values, the craziest production values. The one before that also, I remember really... the one after that, right? So the one with Maisie and Phil and Reese, right? You know that one? And Anya, the latest season 20. There's some stuff that they do. There's one inside this big open area where they have to roll like balls around. And like there's some camera work in that is just astonishing. Apropos of nothing, camera work on this season of Night Manager is also remarkable.
Well, camera people aren't people, so
Really?
you have to
How do you?
consider that.
Is that? That's an industry thing. They're not considered. There is no
they're not
union
considered
because they're not people.
The
You have to be people to have a union. You could have a civil
now I
union.
don't know what you're doing.
I'm sorry, I was trying to do a bit with you. I thought you wanted to do a bit.
I was just referencing Jason Mantzoukas. His where
He's gonna get on the roof. He's got the ladder.
And then
He's getting on the roof. He's getting on the roof. He always makes everyone dress like it. Stevie Martin is delightful. I love Stevie Martin's face. Man, I love goofy looking girls. But we'll close perhaps by the. You don't think she's goofy looking? She's so pretty, but she's really goofy looking. You don't like goofy looking girls? I have a long history of loving goofy looking girls. Marjorie Tyrell, that smirk. I love goofy looking girls. I like all kinds of chips.
God.
My grandma said, okay, but there's another funny one. A bit that he does once a year is it seems like he's about to go into, and this is a widely parodied bit, but everybody knows Monty Python's cheese shop sketch. It's famous for a reason. It's very, very funny. Widely parodied in sometimes deriding ways. But like, it seems sometimes like Stu's about to go into a cheese shop bit, right? Where he goes something like, crisp. Did you get the one with crisps in the dressing room? Crisp, he gets the crisp, he gets all the crisps. His grandfather loves crisps. He loves eating crisps. He loves all kinds of crisps. Plain. Because you're expecting him to go, do you have Leicestershire? Do you have cheddar? Do you have, it's the single most popular cheese in the world? And he doesn't, but he disrupts your expectation, which is what a joke does.
And then he explains that is what a joke does, and that's why you should find it funny. And why don't you understand that he knows it's a bad joke, but it's still
coming
better
over here. Bloody Huguenots. We don't want your lace. Remember the old Nothing song? Nothing says nothing. But we should end with something that you mentioned in text that we should definitely talk about. Excuse me. Which is you know what you did? You made a connection. You made a connection between Stuart Lee and another thing that you didn't know were connected.
What was that Stuart Lee is friends with Alan Moore, and they both.
Many of you will not know that you know Stuart Lee, but if you ever heard that some crazy person in England did a Jerry Springer opera?
Oh,
musical,
yes.
At least musical. Stuart Lee's is the one. If you've ever heard that he got sued for, if you've ever heard of a Jerry Springer musical, that's Stuart Lee who did that.
It's insane to me.
So you had heard of that?
Oh yeah.
What had you heard about it?
That I've seen
I've seen no evidence of it, even though it was very famous.
So that's a lot of the awards that are.
They're creaking on his mantelpiece. Yeah,
are from that show, and just Jerry Springer the opera. It's
Isn't that a funny thing though, that you would be like re-immersed in this? It's like one time I remember one time having a conversation with my mother, and we were both very, devout people. You ever have you get in conversation with your parents, and it's like a little more elevated than your usual conversation. And we were having a very sort of Acts and Romans sort of New Testament discussion, like the good books. Like those are two good books. And about the nature of Christianity, and then specifically we got a little bit into that Christ was representing God on earth. The Holy Spirit's a different thing, and I just got really absorbed in this conversation. And I said to I'm 5 years. No, this one I'm probably 10 years of age, and I say to my mom, "Oh man, whatever happened to Jesus?" And she goes, you know what happened to Jesus. I go, oh, right, he got crucified. I got so involved in our discussion that I stopped thinking of Jesus as the man who he is on your cross. He's not on ours. That's a big distinction. But
he's hot on ours
you get
too.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'd like to doubt his Thomas. 28 years old he is. 33 years old he is.